Jenny Coffee here, and you have been given significance. I wanted to give you some significance today. I want to give you something you can use. I had tried to get this out before and wanted to do a little bit better job, make it a little bit easier to understand. I had gone to the doctor today, and I just asked them about what I knew about the vaccine, and they told me I was correct. So I tried to put this down in a little bit simpler language. Some of the folks that I've talked to said those were pretty fancy words, but it didn't mean much to them. So I'm going to try to do a better job. Chase is going to have to get down. Go ahead, Chaser. Uh-oh. Didn't mean to throw him down. Okay, what you need to know about the vaccine. The people who make the vaccine and are trying to heal you are doing a very good job building vaccines and doing things to provoke your body into healing. The problem is that while they're designing these things, they pick up the phone and they order the DNA. The DNA is made. It's made in a printer with a big board and a lot of little bitty test tubes all on a rack, a multiple test tube rack that'll look something like this. Now the fluid will go in these little test tubes. I made it green because they use a seaweed-based primer. Now close that lid. You have a positive and negative here because all particles, just like you remember about what you were taught about atoms, of course they're not really particles, they're fields, but the way that they drew them into the particle, you always have charging. So these things are charged. Now they'll vaporize them first. They have a small little copper around the outside of that and the green for the seaweed, and this is what they're trying to grow. Now they want really good specimens, and when you're testing for growing DNA, they have like northern blots or whatever, but you put a little flava and you have to let it grow. So what they're trying to do is grow more of what they're going to use. This vapor on the outside of it is a metallic vapor. Generally, it's going to be called mineral salt, but it has a magnetism so that when they put it in here, it can either, there's two different names, one for positive and one for negative, and they can just flow electricity. It's called electrophoresis, and it'll flow across it, and that will cause particles to pick up on this so that it gets higher marked. And the bigger usable things, that way they are marking what they want to grow and can more quickly get more of what they're looking for. Now, this being a protein or some living organism cell, you've got DNA. And because of this seaweed, and there's different ways they can add it in this seaweed, but all of these get marked. That's a little barcode there. So that's actually the seaweed and the copper on the outside, but it's actually DNA. But they're selling these so they can go build the vaccines with them. Each one of them have a mark. So now that they've made what they're going to make the vaccines out of, they'll build the vaccine, but it will have the price tag. And then, what we're told, they also, after they've made our proteins that are going to make everybody well, there's a micro size if you're going to use a microscope. They told us that these little rods would be in there, and in their microscope you could see them all collected together in a little bitty dot because they are coated on the outside with graphene. And that is something that is just like a computer screen made into little, like, flaky, like lead. And it's made out of, they can make it out of garbage. But you can paint this on a wall and program the wall what color you want it to be. So it acts like a screen, and it's so programmable that visual is not the only thing it can do. So it's coated on the outside of this tube, and then on each side they'll cap it. So what do they put in here? and all of them all together is only as big as a microscope. They can actually put light, and they can put liquid chemo in there. So they can do chemo. They can actually put light and energy in it. They can put chemicals so that you get a drug and tell it where to go and deliver the drug, or, and in this case, they can fold up the DNA of their creation and put them in here. So you have a really good delivery system that can be used so many different ways and told even what part of lymph nodes to go into depending on how well they do the programming. So these things take massive amount of computing, just even for the DNA codes. Now, the final step, now that you've got your protein in there, and it can be told where to go because it has a marker on it, and the nanotube will tell it where to go, and we'll tell, how we're going to tell it. Now, they can program that to put it in there, but they want you to have all your records and be able to diagnose you and track you long after you've had COVID. They want to know what it's going to do long-term in your body. They want to use it for all of diagnosis. This is what medicine expects us just to be tricked to go into so that you can just set your phone over your heart and be diagnosed. Or actually, all you have to do is walk by any device once you get your antenna installed. Now, there's a funny thing about DNA that I posted when I saw all this going on. You probably saw me do a lot of posts of frogs riding bicycles, because you're probably familiar with these little shapes by now, the two triangular-looking globular things. What makes them work is the cholesterol flow. You want water. DNA and nanoparticles have to use fluid. And that's been the whole magic behind this. They were ready to do this as soon as they could take blood samples and not label the outside, but have internally, inside the blood, a signal so that the blood itself is marked. And as soon as they had that, they were ready for us. And there were songs out, I want to ride my bicycle, because the guy that wrote that, his friends were really, good scientists, and they were working on it, and it was interesting, but he said, not to him, it was a bicycle. He didn't want to understand all that. But the frog, that kind of just goes back to origins, coming from the water and crawling out on the land. But you had this idea of a frog riding a bicycle because you've got ancient life beginning, and they're going to manipulate so we can be some other type of creation. But it always takes the water. And the thing about our water system is that's where we get our nutrients. So it's a sugar system. So you think of this like sugar water. That's where your cholesterol is, and you develop all your fat in. So that this thing needs the fluid system. So you'll get your little Band-Aid type patch, and it'll have little bitty micro needles on it. And it'll go on the surface of the skin, and it will have this same radio frequency of whatever the protein organic, or, you can have the nanotube talking. You've got it all talking in your cell, and now your cell can talk. What do they want to talk to? They want to they want to read this and see how much of it is sick, how much multiplies. Do they want to read the nano and tell it to do something else? So these go into your system, and this punctures and carries that same frequency of qdot technology or graphing, whatever you want to say, in sugar needles, so that it goes down past the skin into the fluidy part of the skin, where that we can travel then into the fatty system, so that we're getting down into the wet part with sugar. And then that will stay and be scarred. You can see it. These things are red here, generally by near-infrared light. So whatever type of signal then that they've programmed it for use, but that you can walk by any device, walk down the street, and have an X-ray. And what you've seen in Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Thanks.